Good evening and welcome back to Road Atlanta. This evening is the turn of the AMs, and if it is anything like the pros and elites last week, you are not going to want to miss this. Brought to you live on the Total Sim Sport YouTube and Twitch channels. I am James Parfitt, and tonight I'm spoiled to have two amazing commentators with me tonight. Shortly I will be joined by Ian Winchester, who will be providing us with in-depth technical analysis, and Paul Busby, who will be giving us an in-depth driver's perspective of the track. And if we have any incidents, Paul is our referee this evening, so that should be all good. So let's bring in Ian and welcome him to the booth tonight. Good evening, Ian, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, James. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. I hope everyone's keeping well this fine evening. I had a really nice evening away from screens, just with friends. Got some information about the track here. It's a 2.5 mile, 12 turn, natural terrain road course, originally built in 1970, and just north of a town called Briselton in Georgia. The current real-world GT3 record of 119.7 is held by Shimiya Michimi at the 2009 Petit Le Mans. I think we'll probably see some people breaking that tonight, though. If you're looking at the track, the most important corners are turn 7, which is the sharp right-hander, first gear, leading to the huge back straight. It's really important that you get a good exit out of there. And along that back straight, you've got T8 and T9. Before the chicane at T10, which leads into the start-finish straight. The T12 is the long fast left before the start-finish straight, if anyone's familiar with the track. Again, you need to be able to maintain good average speed through there, because you've got that little bit of a short, and there's some opportunity for overtaking. T5 after the S's is the next bit of straight, after the long sprint down the hill, before you get to that turn 7 we were talking about just before. And then T3, which is kind of what Road Atlanta is probably famous for, is that pinch point at the top of the bank. There's a sharp right, or it feels like a sharp right, and the camber changes dramatically before charging down the hill and to the S's.
Thank you, Ian. Let's bring in Paul, who has joined us as a driver analysis this evening, providing us with in-depth driver perspective of being at a track like Road Atlanta and what it's like taking part in a GT3 League. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, James. Hi, Ian. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
So, Paul, tell us from a driver's point of view, if you have signed up to the league as an AM and tonight is your first race, what do you think is going through the driver's heads this evening?
So I think there's going to be a big mix of kind of nervous excitement and yeah, just pure kind of bottom of the belly nervousness before the start, with everyone desperate to make a strong start and lay down a marker for to their rivals for the season. I've been absolutely blown away by the amount of practice that the drivers have been putting into the league over the last few weeks, and now it's time for them to show what they've got. After the absolutely mega pro and elite races last week, I can't wait to see what the AMs have got in show for us today.
There you have it, guys. We are in for some epic racing, and I'm excited as always and can't wait to see what these amazing drivers do. Ian, we have a very mixed field of car makers this evening, with a new Porsche and Ferrari joining us this season. What will that bring to the racing this evening?
Thank you, James. I think there's going to be some cars, as I'm sure you know, have different strengths and weaknesses, but I'd just like to talk a little bit before we go into that about the balance of performance, how that came to be. I know it's potentially not what you asked, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It came from originally the Maserati MC12 back in the early 2000s with a ground-up redesign from Dallara. The guy who was in charge of GT wasn't keen because he'd been caught out by Mercedes, who had been a little bit sharp with the spirit of the law and rinsed everybody. He was overruled by Max Mosley at the time, the FAA president, who came up with the idea of the balance of performance, which has turned into the cornerstone of GT and is partly responsible for its stellar growth and popularity.
Awesome.
That said, sorry, James. Just going to bring Paul in because I think Paul is more intimately familiar with the GT3 class than I am. I only really raced the Merc in anger, but I think Paul is pretty experienced in most of the classes.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So, from what I've seen so far since the latest patch, the Ferrari has made the comeback that the Tifosi diehards have been absolutely screaming for. The new 2020 Evo model looks really strong, especially here at Road Atlanta. The Beamer looks incredibly quick as well. While it's looking like it's out for a Sunday drive, it just looks so casual. And then obviously you've got my personal favourite, which is the Porsche 911 GT3R, which is absolutely rapid if you can tame her wild side and keep her on the black stuff.
Thank you guys for that. So guys, the format for this evening will be each race is 45 minutes, preceded by a closed qualification session to set the grid, which is what we're in now. Pole position will be getting an extra point this season, and a driver will, with the fastest lap at the end of the season, will be picking one up too. Now, the schedule for the AMS this season. Okay, so we are at Road Atlanta tonight. On the 10th of October, we are at the Hungaro Ring, the 21st of October at Road America, and that rounds out October. For November, we are in the Nürburgring on the 7th, the famous Suzuka circuit on the 21st, and then rounding out the season on the 5th of December at Mount Panorama. Now, obviously, we're going to be live every Sunday, guys, because we're on alternative weekends with the pros and elites next week, which I'm sure our very own Mr. Busby is very excited for. Paul, what's going to happen next week?
Oh, it's going to be a tough one. With Hungaro Ring obviously being new to the iRacing service, there's going to need to be a lot of practice put in. I'm actually a bit behind at the moment. I've not actually set foot on the track yet, and I know quite a lot of my rivals have been practicing hard for the last week or so already. So, yeah, time to kind of pull my pants up and get on with it, I think.
So what are we looking at? I've seen in chat they're talking about 144s. Is that the average time we would be looking at, Paul, for the race, do you reckon?
I think so. I think, to be honest, there might be a possibility that by the end of the week, people are getting into the 43s regularly. I think, yeah, it's going to be quite an open race, to be honest, because, like I say, there's not too much experience on the track yet. But again, we've got some super high quality drivers in the leagues, so I think the standard of driving and the actual racecraft and everything's going to be incredible. So it's going to be another great one to watch.
There you go, guys. You're not going to want to miss this race. Next weekend, we'll be live at the Hungaro Ring for the pros and elites. Now, I'm excited, which is generally what happens at every single broadcast I do these cars, because it's absolutely outstanding. But Ian, from our side of things regarding this track we've got this evening, what are we going to be looking at with really the main kind of sticking points for the AMs? You know, if they haven't been out practicing, they haven't been out doing the same sort of laps as the pros and elites, maybe. Where's their issues going to be, do you think?
As we kind of said earlier, I think the main pinch point will be the top of the bank at turn 3. If anyone's familiar with Road Atlanta, it's as you come off the start-finish straight, you go around that long sweeping right as you crest the top, and there's that sharp right as you bounce over the curb to get a good angle as you come into the S's. That is traditionally a really sharp trigger point. And then the S's, if you've really not taken that correctly, then you're going to get all out of shape as you're coming down there, because the weight is shifting left to right as you're trying desperately to hang onto the wheel and brake hard before that T5, before you got the nice little bit of a straight. And then of course there's that T7, which is absolutely crucial, because you've got that huge straight. It's probably about 3/4 of a mile, and you could easily maybe lose 3-4 tenths by the end of it if you don't come out of that correctly. But T3, I think, is definitely the one to watch for.
Yeah, I think we've got the S's, and then we're going to be down into T5. Now, from past experience, T5 is an insanely tricky corner. Paul, what is the dangers of T5 that we're going to be looking at, do you think? Because that outside curb, if you take it wrong, it's just going to be one-way ticket into the wall the other side, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So if you catch the curb on the right-hand side on entry slightly wrong and your car's not pointed directly at the apex, it's really easy for the car to kind of shoot right under braking. So you kind of want to actually brake quite a bit earlier than you think you need to, but with obviously less pedal, just to kind of settle the car. And again, this kind of depends on what car you're driving, because, for example, the Ferrari and the BMW can absolutely eat the curbs, and it just doesn't care. Whereas if you try and do the same thing in the Porsche, you're going to get absolutely sent to the shadow realm. So it's slightly different lines for different cars, which again just kind of adds to the complexities of the track, really.
Yeah, we saw last week with James Armstrong. James Armstrong swapped for the Mercedes into. Obviously, he's in the Lamborghini Hurricane. Now, obviously, James must be very used to taking the curbs because he was being quite ferocious with them. But he did come unstuck a couple of times on the chicane where he was taking too much curbs at the end of the long straight, down into T5 as well. Is that something that the Lambos don't like, Paul, of taking them curbs?
Yeah, Lambos is just as bad as the Porsche over the curbs. You just can't go near them, as James found out last week to his displeasure.
Yeah, I'm probably guessing he wasn't too overly pleased with that. So we're going into the 4 minutes now. We're left of the warm-up, guys. If you have just joined us on stream, absolutely welcome in. Let's jump into chat for a bit. Track car Trev, I'm so excited for this. Nathan Willoughby, looking forward to this. Thank you very much, my man, for jumping in. That's going to be absolutely amazing. Shabzy, evening all. Chris Eddy, IR UK, hey, and Hello Fresh, hi, welcome in. So Ian and Paul, are we going to tonight? Because I find that generally, if we pick winners, it can all go completely wrong for that poor individual person. Now, Paul, from a driver's point of view, why do you think that happens? Because they call it the commentator's curse, but yet we have nothing to do with the car at the precise moment you're driving it.
It's something to do with instant karma and that, I guess. If you're lucky enough to be kind of under the spotlight by the cameras, you're kind of leading yourself up to the universe, giving you a kick up the arse.
I think that's the thing. Ian, what's your take on this commentator's curse? And is it something we do, or is it something that we just have no control over whatsoever?
I don't know. Actually, something's just popped into my head, James. This is going to sound weird, right? But bear with me, all right? Bear with me. Like, I think in the 60s, the Russians did some experiments like this with a submarine. And they took a rabbit and its baby rabbits, and they sent the submarine out into the sea, like 500 miles away. And it's a bit macabre, but they killed the baby rabbits on land, and they registered at exactly the same time the mother's heartbeat was spiking. Right, so I'm not saying that anyone's kind of like got rabbit children in this race, because that'd just be weird. But there is something in it, and maybe there's something in the ether that we say, so just positive vibes, and for that reason, I'm not picking any.
Right, so do you think then that my heart rate spikes? So, as like last week we were following Cy Anthony.
It causes a blowout. Just be calm.
Right, so calm. Come on, this is me. I don't do calm when we're commentating on these races. But are you saying that we have the effect? So my heart rate spikes, Cy Anthony's on camera, his heart rate spikes, and it leads him to make a mistake?
I'm not discounting it, that's all I'm saying.
Paul, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I've got my voodoo doll ready on the side already.
Sharpening those pins.
Oh, guys, we are down to the last 1 minute 50 at the moment. We've got John Watt, who's currently setting the fastest times of a 1:19.22. Richard Jones on a 1:19.25. Vance Briggs on a 1:19.27, who DM'd me and told me, please don't pick me as the winner because he didn't want to be affected by the commentator's curse. So, I won't pick them. So we've got Carl Cranswick, he's done a 1:19.75 as well, and Raheen, and he's done a 1:19.77. So it's all fairly tight. What can we expect from qualifying, Paul? Are they going to go out, what are we going to expect from the race over the first couple of laps? Are they going to be taking it easy, or from a driver's point of view, is that something that you don't do in general?
I personally don't. I like to try and make up as many positions as I can, obviously while trying to keep it reasonably safe. But I think the key to this race, specifically with it being the AM class, I think they do very much need to keep it on the tarmac. I know obviously that's a given, but I think there will be, it's inevitable that there's going to be some incidents. There'll be some off tracks, there'll be some potentially people in the wall. I think just by keeping it on the track, making sure that your pit stop is A-OK, that you don't jump your pit box like I did in the elite race, then you will inevitably gain a lot of positions from your start. So yeah, I think key is consistency, but take your opportunities when you've got them.
So are we saying this is open to anyone? Are we saying this is open to anybody's race then, Paul?
I think it is definitely. I think just judging by the timing boards at the moment, there's very little to choose between all of the drivers, and it was the same in the elite and the pro. I think in both of those races there was something like 1.2 seconds between the whole grid. So yeah, hopefully more of that today.
Oh, right, okay. So that's the end of the warm-up. So, Ian, when the grid comes up, will you take us through the starting grid when we start off?
Absolutely. Quick question though for Paul: are you someone who prefers starting from the pit sometimes, or
Absolutely
would you always
not.
No? You always
Absolutely
bang on grid, just start,
Yeah.
go, take it as it comes.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Fair dues.
Right.
Fair dues. Right. So in first position we've got Richard Jones in a M4, then followed by Stuart Brown to round out the first row in his Evo GT3 Ferrari. Vance Briggs is position 3. Liam Murray in position 4. Third row, we've got John Watt in a GT Porsche 911, and Gary Truby in position 6. In position 7, Neil Smith in his M4. Josh Wilson in his Porsche. In 9th, we've got Rehan Atif, and 10th, Rob Armstrong. 11th, Carl Cranswick, and 12th, Alex Williams. 13th, Nick Alexander. 14th, Rob Windsor. 15th, Samuel Hooper. 16th, Matty Wild. 17th, Steve Hughes in a Lamborghini. 18th, Robert York. 19th, Craig Wakefield. 20th, Stuart Williams. Edwin Webb is 21st. Alex Holloway, 22nd. And Trevor Davis, 23rd. And Dave Noonan, 24th. And the final line is Joe Turner and Austin William.
Right, so we're on the warm-up now, Paul. So from this the driver's point of view, what are you thinking? What are you thinking going around this warm-up lap?
All I'm thinking at this point is if I'm on the outside, please don't get cut off from the guy on the inside by pushing out too wide onto the start-finish straight. We saw a bit of a catastrophe in the pro race. Hopefully everyone keeps it clean and gets around the first lap okay.
So that's what we're aiming for. First lap, no first corner incidents, so that would be nice. So as they head round now, guys, we're coming round into that tricky 5. This is the one we're talking about with the curb on the outside. Now, as we know from the pros and elites race, the BMWs can literally eat them curbs and survive the other side. Porsches, Lamborghinis, not so much. Again, it will cause you to have a big spin, and that wall on the left-hand side is very dangerous indeed. So we're going to head round into 6 and 7 now. This is a little bit where you start coming around quite slowly. You're in third gear as you go round the corner. You're going to be accelerating up, quick flick to fourth, and then back down into second as you come along. And then going along this back straight, Paul, is just full throttle all the way out, isn't it? All the way down.
All the way down, yeah. You want to literally be flat all the way down here, down into the kind of braking zone, into the chicane. Hopefully you can make a move or two on the inside, if you're brave enough.
Yeah, we found that inside line very strong last week when we was watching the pros and elites. And Callum Roby, well, his inside line driving was absolutely exceptional. Where would you say then, Paul, that our main braking point's coming down here? What are we looking for on the side of the track?
So it's not really the side of the track you're looking for. The couple of white lines actually at the bottom of the hill where it compresses, that's what I use. I think it's around the 150 marker, off the top of my head. And yeah, where the track's going back uphill, you can really get onto 100% of the brakes and really make the most of it.
Right, there you go, guys. As we come round into the last corner, your season 4 2021 AM race is green, and we are off. with Richard Jones still up in the lead at the moment. We've got Stuart Brown following him, Vance Briggs in third as they start going round first up the hill into the tricky chicane. As we've said, this could be make or break, Ian, and hopefully they will all make it round cleanly, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it seems that someone's gone run a little bit wide already by the looks of it. Maybe missed a braking zone or got nudged aside. We might get a quick replay from that any second. But looking down through the S's, there's a long snaking traffic. Everyone seems to be behaving really well and managing the balance of their cars.
Yeah, we've got number 25 there. Alex Williams dropped back from the pack, but he's generally made it through. So we've got, as we come down here, we are on board with Alex now as we're going up the hill into the chicane. And as you can see, he hits the brake, catches the curb, and unfortunately, well, Paul, explain it. That's just like ice going onto that grass, isn't it?
Yeah, as soon as he's lost the back end there, going up to the top of the hill, as soon as his wheels touch the grass, he's a passenger at that point, and hopefully he's not bent the steering, hitting the wall there on the side.
Yeah,
that's pretty tough. These M4s, though, aren't they? They're not like the Porsche. The Porsche, you just kind of look at a wall and you've lost the steering.
I think that's the thing, it's the frailties of each car, isn't it? As we jump on board now with Rob Windsor, he's got Kyle Cranswick in front, Rob Armstrong pushing up behind him in the Mercedes as they come through, down through 12A along the start-finish straight. As they're heading down here now, they're going to be in full throttle as best they can, flick down into fourth, going up the hill, keeping it on the inside as much as possible, ready for your line. As you look up there, up the hill, there is a line there, and we're on board with Nick Alexander, just been passed by Samuel Hooper, going up the hill from first gear. Now, we're expecting, Paul, some very close racing this earlier on. As we see now, Trevor Davis, our very own Trevor Davis, he is currently on the defence from who's a Matty Wild. Oh, Trevor just loses it on the curb as he goes round the first corner. Easily done, Paul, would you say?
Yeah, it's quite tough into T1 where you're going down into a compression again. You kind of need to let the car coast through it, and everyone kind of wants to get on the throttle a little bit too early. And on lap 2, your tyres are still cold, and as you can see from Trev there, he's had a bit of a nightmare, and he's now going to be heading up the back of the field.
Yeah, so we've got Kyle Cranswick now with Rob Windsor right behind him as they come down through the little kink that they call 9, and then we're going to be heading down into turn 10A and turn B. Rob's got up there, pushing up behind him, line astern as he goes up through the hill. Under the bridge they go. Now, last week, guys, we saw some very tricky manoeuvres under the shed. Poor old Nathan Willoughby was very faithful. Now, the pit lane exit is not in a great position here, Ian. How dangerous is that this evening, do you reckon?
Well, it's the pit lane entry as well, like, because you've got to, if you're not really expecting someone to go into pits, they're braking harder because they need to, the camber changes and they want to come into the pit, so you need to be kind of on the lookout for that. Not such a problem at the start of the race, but yeah, also the pit lane exit, you've basically got to rely on your spotters, and the guys coming out of the pit have got to rely on their spotters, and everyone's just got to play fair about it, because otherwise you've just got all sorts of carnage, and if you're in a pack, then you can easily wipe out half the field, and so everyone just needs to be a little bit sensible about that.
Yeah, and as we've seen there, Neil Smith going through the chicane section, he literally took more curbs than Dave Noonan in the Porsche there, Paul. Is that something that the BMW does well? We clearly can see.
Yeah, that was clear to see there what we was talking about previously, and that's a great move down into the inside of T7 there. Has he got the run out onto the straight? Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like he's got the slipstream from the Beamer in front as well, so he should be able to pull off into the distance now, start making an attack on the next guy.
Yeah, so there we go. We've got Kyle Cranswick coming down into the chicane section as he heads up over the hill. He's going to be coming under the bridge. He's still got Rob Windsor tucked up right behind him in the Ferrari Evo, a very bright-looking Ferrari Evo this year. They have gone full out on skins this year. We have seen some amazing liveries from the pros and elites, and we're seeing it again in the AMs. As we go, Kyle Cranswick up the hill through round T1. We're going to be coming up to the chicane section. Rob Windsor now sitting up still, line astern behind him, as we're heading down into the chicane, and we jump on board with Joe Turner McMullen. He's now pushing Dave Noonan, and this is the thing, Ian, isn't it? You can jeopardise your race by losing one position. Unfortunately, it backs you up into somebody else behind you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic race, isn't it? I mean, like, if you're busy fighting and then both of you lose time because both of you are concentrating on the car in front of you instead of your apex, or the car behind you, in the case, if the case may be, instead of your apexes and exits. And it just seems to be natural that you just lose speed, which allows people behind you to catch up. In fact, if you're way behind, you kind of really want the people in front to battle, so you can you've got a chance to really gain some time on.
Yeah, definitely on that one. It's a very tricky one. We've got Edmund Webb now in his Mercedes. He runs exceptionally wide. Again, Paul, he lost a good 4 or 5 places. Something easy again to do if you miss your braking zone coming down into the S's.
I've got to say, he has done incredibly well to keep that out of the wall on the right-hand side there, because there's a big bump in the gravel trap. Where he's gone over there, it lifts the front of the car up, and you are literally a passenger, so fair play to him for keeping that one out of the wall and keeping his race alive.
One-wheel steering at that point.
Yeah, massively.
Joe Turner there overtaking Dave Noonan down into the thing. We got Neil Smith coming into the pits. I'm not quite sure if he's had an off or a problem, but this is a very early pit stop for, less than 6 minutes. Let's have a look what's happened to Neil as we come down 8 and 9. We're going to come into the chicane section now. He's hard on the brakes as he's going round the outside. Oh, there was a little touch there, unfortunately, and poor O'Neill well, he suffered on that one, Paul, didn't he?
Yeah, he's got to have bent the rear suspension. I can't see why a little tap like that has brought him in, but maybe he's just been really unlucky there. It looked to me like he may have just needed to give him a little bit more room on the inside. He had a bit more room on the outside of the track. He could have used a bit more of the curb, but without seeing it again, I don't want to apportion too much blame on that one yet.
It looked to me like he was a little bit too keen on the power and the back flipped.
So we got Rob Armstrong coming into the chicane. He's got past Rob Windsor. We must have just missed that one, unfortunately. He got past Rob Windsor. Now he's going to be chasing down Carl Cranswick as we come round into 12A. We're going to cross the start-finish straight. We're going to be heading up the hill with a very determined Rob Windsor in his Mercedes AMG. He's got Rob Armstrong, sorry. He's got Rob Windsor behind him. We've got Carl Cranswick in front. Now, we're talking seconds of a gap. Is that something that, as we will jump on board with Alex Williams coming through the S's, are we going to see the fateful turn 5? Yes, we are. Paul, any explanation?
It's exactly what we was talking about. If you attack the curb on the outside at the slightly wrong angle, it will just drag your car to the right, as exactly what he's experienced there. So it's a bit of a surprise seeing it in the Beamer, though, I've got to say.
Yeah, he seems to be just jumping on the brakes a little bit too hard there, carried him too much, and unfortunately he spun going into the turn 5. Now we know it's quite a fast corner anyway, Paul, and it's very easy to get wrong, isn't it?
It is massively, yeah, and it's one of those where if you brake slightly too late, where the kind of the crest of the hill comes up, you lose the front end of the car, and if you're carrying too much speed, that wall on the outside is just screaming out to eat your front wheels, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we got Edmund Webb, who's just got past Alex Holloway. As we jump on board with Matty Wild, he's coming down into the chicane. What have you done here, Matty? You've hit the inside curb on the right-hander. Unfortunately, that is just a little bit of a driver error, and that's just one-way spinning, unfortunately, Matty. Never mind, nice try. As we go back on board with Edmund Webb again and Alex Holloway, they're still having a battle going down into the chicane, up the hill under the bridge. We've got Edmund Webb, Alex Holloway, who's behind him at the moment. Alex has got Joe Turner in the Lamborghini. He is right up behind him now, 0.39 seconds, and closing as we come down the start-finish straight. We're going to be heading up the hill momentarily, and there we are. We are heading up the hill into the chicane at the top of the hill. As we come round into here, we've got Joe McMullen, Alex Holloway, Edmund Webb, literally about 1.5 seconds away from each other coming down. What's Joe thinking here, Ian? What is he going to be looking at? Is he going to be thinking, I've got to push, but I might make mistakes? Or is he going to just kind of settle and see what happens in front of him leading up to the pit stops?
He's thinking, miss that curb as he's coming to the bottom. He's probably fixed his eyes on it right at the bottom, just going, yeah, don't go there. That's probably what he's thinking at that kind of speed.
Yeah, so we've got Neil Smith back in the pits again. He's on his way in. He's not having a good time there, is old Neil Smith. Do you think he would have suffered severe damage out of that, Paul? That little tap and spin?
I think he must have done, because I can't see any reason why he would have come in otherwise. And obviously in this league you do get a fast repair, so like he wasn't in the pit window, he wouldn't have been able to make the fuel work with how early he came in, so I can only assume he's had another incident that's caused him to have to come into the pits for more repairs.
As we jump on board with Gary Truby come down into 5, this will give us a bird's-eye view of this corner. As we jump on board, here we go. We have got Craig Wakefield as he comes down the straight now at the moment. We are got Stuart Williams behind us. Ooh!
That T1.
Yeah, that was a very strange one on that one, wasn't it, Ian? I think
Yeah, it certainly was. I think with that with T1, right, it's Paul will probably back me up on this one. You have to take a wide line for it. Sometimes the line you think you need is not as wide, but because you just the camber changes ever so slightly, it looks like he turned in a little bit too sharp. Oh dear, that looks like a bent steering rack.
Yeah, from what I can see there, not only has he taken too much of an inside line, he's kind of stabbed the brakes too much. The key thing for T1 is to be super smooth on your brake application and only kind of use maybe 20-30% of your brake and then really kind of trail it off smoothly, because where it goes down the hill into the compression, the car is so unsettled at that point that you really need it to kind of squat in and allow the kind of aero to take over and whip you around the top part of the hill. But he's got that completely wrong.
So you're saying that you don't want too much effort, too much force on the front of the car. You want the back to take some of the weight as well, just so the car's nice and settled through that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether you guys noticed from the elite race, but my rear discs were absolutely on fire for the whole race, and that's purely to stop that front end biting in at T1 and just spinning you around.
Paul, are you a driver that changes your brake bias halfway through the race for certain corners, or are you capable of that kind of level of, there's a little bit of a nudge there, that's a real shame. That was a heavy hit as well.
Liam Murray and Trevor Davis there having a little bit of a coming together. Looks like in the chicane going up the hill as we go underneath the bridge. Didn't look, unfortunately, a little bit too clean. We'll see if we can get a replay on that one as we jump on board with Alex Holloway. He's still got Joe Turner tucked up behind him as they come down into 6 and 7. Joe Turner heading off into the inside. He's not. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's kept it nice and clean there as we go down into 7. Now we're going to be pushing along the straight, guys. Joe Turner, Alex Holloway has got a little bit of a better drive as we jump on board. What happened with Liam Murray and Trevor Davis here? Liam goes on the outside, tries to go up the inside. Ooh!
I think
Trevor's a little bit slow on his exit there, and just ended up spinning in a reverse.
Yeah, there was contact as well, though, Paul, wasn't there?
Yeah, he tried. You could see that Liam had the kind of. He tried to do the cutback. He had a lot more exit speed, but he just couldn't get far enough over to the inside of the track to kind of make it work. And unfortunately, he's kind of pit manoeuvred Trevor and put him in the wall, which is unfortunate.
So we got back on turn with Stuart Brown, Vance Briggs right behind him. He's got 2-second gap now. It's fairly settled at the front. We've fairly got a settled field at the moment. We've got Richard Jones, who has pulled out 3-second gap over Stuart Brown, who's got 2 seconds over Vance Briggs. The closest battle is this one here with Vance and Gary Truby. He's got 0.4 seconds as we head down into the chicane, and it is closing quickly. We got Gary in his Ferrari, we got Vance in his BMW. As we head up over the hill, we're going to be heading under the bridge very shortly. There we are, and we're pushing down into 12A now. As we keep going down into 12A, we're going to be heading down into the start-finish straight, full flat out. These guys have been going at it the last couple of laps. This is going to be an interesting one. Is Vance going to take the inside line, defend from Gary as we go up the hill into the chicane section? Now we know this is tricky. We know you need to be careful. So come on, Vance, let's keep it clean as we go round into the chicane. We eat the curb on the left-hand side. We're going to be now heading down into the S's section. We go right, and he takes not as much curb as I thought he was going to be. And there we go down into 5. We're on board with Gary as he goes down into 5. He takes that curb. Vance takes that curb, and we're still line astern, guys. This is going to go any way, Ian, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's crucial. We're coming up to this crucial corner, and we'll see now how Gary deals with the exit here. And Vance Briggs, it looks like Vance Briggs got a much better exit. You saw him literally almost disappear into the distance, and he probably gained a good 2/10 on the exit of that. It's really important. And as we can see, Vance is losing a bit of ground though, as the grunt of the Ferrari really does start to catch up, and we're braking hard into this last chicane. Who's going to get the better line, and who's got the clean air?
Yeah, that's the thing. We saw this last week with the toe. The toe still picks up a second back on that last straight, as we saw with Johnny Hitchin and Don Roberts there, Paul. I think that draft plays a lot bigger of an effect than I think we give it credit for, really, going down that long straight.
It does, yeah. Especially in the Beamer and the Beamer and the Ferrari. specifically for this track, they're both running very, very low wing. To give you an example, I was running kind of 6 wing in the Porsche. I know that a lot of the Ferraris were running literally minimum wing. So it makes a huge difference to those cars. I was struggling in the slipstream. It wasn't really making much difference to me, but if you're in the Beamer or the Ferrari and you're tucked under someone's wing, it's definitely going to make the extra difference.
Now, as we jump on board with Richard Jones, what have you been up to as we come down into the chicane? Again, dab of the brakes, and around he goes, unfortunately. There's been a lot of that this weekend, this week actually, generally, Paul, at that chicane section, isn't there?
Yeah, we're at the time of the race now where the light's completely gone. We've gone from sunset to complete darkness, and I think that might just be catching people out with seeing their braking marker at the bottom of the hill, and if you end up overdoing it, hitting into that inside curb, it just spins the car around if you're carrying too much speed.
I'd have thought to counter that though, the track should be cooling down quite nicely, so you might actually get a nice bit of grip back.
Yeah, for sure. The tyres will definitely be coming back to them at this point. But in the same sense, if these drivers are kind of used to driving during the daytime and have not done too much nighttime practice, it is a completely different kettle of fish.
Now, as we go on with Rehan now, he's got Carl Cranswick right up behind him as we go up over the hill. We're going to be going into the chicane there. We are with Rehan on top. We take the inside. We're going to drive the car from second all the way down to fourth, down to the hill. We're going to be taking the inside of the S's as we go right, and then we're going to be going left, and then we go right again, and we dab the brakes. We go out onto turn 5. Oh, it takes a lot more of the curb than Carl does behind him. But is that the difference in cars there, Paul? You could do that in the Ferrari, but you can't take that in the Porsche.
Yeah, exactly that. I know as well that Cole's actually using my setup, so I know that he's going to be down on straight line speed compared to Rehan in the Ferrari, but he needs to be making it work in the infield section and getting that right underneath his rear wing down the back straight, and hopefully make a move into the chicane.
Yeah, 0.3 back and closing, don't get me wrong, but I don't know generally if he's going to be close enough on this one. I think it's going to be line astern as they come through the chicane up over the hill. They're going to be going under the bridge, and they'll be going down onto 12A. Carl's got a lot better pull than Rehan coming out of that last corner. As we go round into the last, finish up into 12A, we go down onto the start-finish straight. Paul, as you're looking at the screen, is on your left.
He's sending it.
He's sending out the inside. Oh, it's a brave one from Carl Cranswick. They are side by side going up the hill. Looks like little Rehan's not giving the space up as he heads into the chicane. Oh,
that's fantastic driving from the pair of them. I thought that was going to end in tears, but I think there might have been a little bit of a door bash. But they've both survived, and Cole's going to come back at him again through the S's and out at T5.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a wipeout there. That was a quality bit of racing for both of them. Mutual respect.
Yeah, we've seen it quite clean, to be fair, as we've seen both the AMs, pros and elites. It's been fairly clean, but we have seen a lot of obviously just singles mistakes, should we say. Obviously, we had, James Armstrong, Cy Anthony, and we've just seen it here as well. What are we going to be? Where are we going to be at now, Paul? We've got 26 minutes remaining. We're 18 minutes in. What are our nerves? What's going to be our feelings going down now with this amount of time coming up?
So we're getting closer and closer to the pit window now. So it's track position at this point is crucial, because as we mentioned before, the kind of entry. Oh, he's sending it on the inside.
Carl's got on the inside. We wish Rehan's taking the white line. Carl's got the better run as he comes under the bridge, going down into the 12A. We're going to be on to the start finish straight. Carl Cranswick, I think he's got that move done, Paul.
He's got it done. Is he going to hold it into T1? It looks like he's got it done.
Yeah, he's all behind him, but we have got Rob Armstrong and Richard Jones closing up on this battle. Now, that's the issue, isn't it? As you're going into a race here and you're battling with a car in front, but you're holding each other up and you've got the cars coming up from you behind you. What do you do?
Well, you've got to basically try and divide your focus, and whilst your focus is on the car that's right next to you, you've still got to try and work out how to get the fastest time out of the lap, but you can't, because you're trying to not to hit this guy, trying to defend against it, and the defend line often will take tenths off your corners, so it's just natural that people catch up. But to be fair, Carl did really well to hang on to that, and here we go. I think there's going to be a crash, and we're just going to go to that now.
Oh, Vance Briggs is coming on the exit of the pit lane there.
Goodness me.
That was Edmund Webb, I believe, wasn't it, as he come up? we're going to have a look now, see if we get a better angle of what happened there. I don't know. Paul, any explanation on that one?
It looks like exactly what we was talking about on the pit exit earlier. Well, let's have a look at it now.
Ooh.
Oh dear. That's where your spotter needs to be screaming in your ear. It's hard to say from that angle whether it was the guy coming through T1 that's caused that. Let's have a look.
We're on board with Edmund as he goes through now. He doesn't see him though, Paul. That's the problem.
I've got to say, from my point of view, I think Edward is on the complete wrong line there, especially looking at the fact that it is the pit window. The pit window is open now. There's no reason for that car to be on the right-hand side of the track there coming out of T1. He should be further onto the left, sweeping it up to the top of the hill. I think that's really unlucky there for the guy that got took out in the Beamer.
Do you think he got the Edmund got the car balance wrong as he came out of T1 and basically felt he had to cross the track in order to maintain traction?
Possibly. It looked to me like he. To be honest, you can only really go over to the inside of the track there if you've gone too slow through the corner. Like,
right.
You shouldn't have enough traction to be able to pull yourself to the pit exit on after T1. So yeah, I think he needs to have a bit of a look at himself on that one.
I mean, could you have come around T1 a little bit fast and the back end started to step out and you basically trying to wrestle the car, but the car is pointing too close to the right?
Yeah, it's possible. I think we would have seen a bit more tyre smoke if that had been the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely possible. Without kind of seeing the telemetry and stuff, it's hard to tell.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, we did see it with Alex Holloway though as he come up the bridge. He did take the same line as Edmund Webb there, Paul, and did obviously hit that last exit of the pit lane as he come up the hill. So it's obviously something that's easily done with people, isn't it? You take that line, what just seems natural to you, but not so much to other drivers.
I think you can end up being in kind of like a tunnel where you're so focused on hitting every apex and you're trying to just pump in every single lap time, and you obviously you want to make the jumps when people are making their pit stops. You want to try and like do an undercut or an overcut, so you're so focused on hitting every apex and trying to nail every corner that you end up just completely tunnel visioned and completely forgetting that there might be someone coming out of the pit lane, which I think maybe a bit of inexperience. It's definitely something that he's going to learn from this race. Hopefully it doesn't happen in future race weekends.
So we've got Samuel Hooper now. He is in the 10th position with Rob York in 11th as they head down onto 8 and 9. We'll try and follow this battle as they go all the way down. We have got 0.30 as we're pushing down into the hill. We're coming up on board with Rob as he goes in to looks at Samuel Hooper, lets him know he's there, takes the chicane as normal, line astern again going up the hill as we head up over the hill now. We're going on board with Rob Armstrong. Now, he has been at the back of Rian for a good few laps now, and we've got Carl Cranswick who's got ahead, and he's now pushing on. Is Rian is he holding him up, would you say, guys? Is he holding him up, not deliberately of his own, because obviously he's quick and he's got a right to be on the track, but is he holding up Rob Armstrong?
I think there's a possibility that where he was trying so hard to keep Cole behind him, that he might have slightly overcooked his tyres a little bit, because the Ferrari definitely doesn't look as planted as it did earlier. I do think that as the race goes on and the car gets lighter, the Mercedes definitely gets quicker. So that might well be playing into it as well. But it's great to see this train. You've got Cole obviously taking off into the distance now, but everything going on behind it. You've got Richard battling Rob, and then Rob battling with Rehan. Hopefully we'll see some fireworks shortly.
Yeah, we got Richard Jones is at the back of this free now. He's going to be looking at, from his patient side of things. We've got Batmaker as well. As we go down into the chicane section, we push up over the hill. We're going to be coming under the bridge on full throttle as best we can. Is he looking? Oh, Richard Jones heads into the pits there. That looks like a little bit of a split-second decision there, guys, didn't it, really? He didn't, I don't think he looked like he was going to be heading in there, and I wouldn't have been the car behind. Who was that on the pit exit?
There's a car in the wall. We'll get a replay of that any second.
I think that was Trevor Davis. Yeah, Trevor Davis comes round as we go up into turn one. It's looking like this fateful turn one, lifted off, brakes at the same time, and around.
That's right. That's right, James. And Trevor plays his reverse card on the table and flips the back round.
Yeah, as he's in the pits now, as we see poor old Trevor Davis there sitting in the pits. We've still got Rob Armstrong. He's still sitting behind Rian as we're going to be heading down into 7. We're going to be heading down onto the 11th straight now. Rob Armstrong has got a lot better exit as we come down the straight. He is literally 0.20, 0.19, and he is eating this time in Rian. Paul, which way would you go defensively, left or right?
You've got to defend the inside. You have to make the guy go around the outside and make it difficult for him. The interesting thing is that the pit window is open, so if they're right behind each other and one of them decides to go into the pits and one doesn't, we could end up in a bad time. But it looks like Rob's got it done. Rehan's coming back up on the inside.
I think Rian may have been looking like, oh no, he's still behind him as we're heading down the straight. As you can see, he's in 4th gear. He's going to do a quick flick to 4th. He'll pull it back, 5th. He'll pull it back down to 4th as he heads up the hill now. As we're going up, is he going to be thinking, I've got to try and get his position back? Because he didn't look overly defensive there, Paul, did it, going into that chicane?
No, I think he's doing a bit of self-preservation. I think he's aiming to get into the top 10 for the first race weekend. I think he'd be over the moon with that. In the nice Iron Brew liveried car. I've got to give a big shout out to that.
Yeah,
you're Scottish, are you, Paul?
I'm not, but my surname comes from Scotland originally, so I've got to give credit where credit's due. That's an excellent little anagram on the side of his car. I like it.
Do you find yourself drinking Buckfast in a quiet moment when you're on your own?
Only when it's raining.
There we go, guys. We got Rihan, Rob Armstrong in front. We're going forward with Joshua Wilson's had a fairly quiet race, but he's got now Carl Cranleigh-Swash pushing up onto the back of him, going into the chicane. As you can see, what Paul was talking about, the brake ducts on the back of that Porsche is literally lighting up. It is on fire. Is that something you struggle with, Paul, throughout the race, with your brakes lighting up like that, or is it something that you're not overly worried about?
No, it's not something that bothers me. To be honest, I didn't actually know it was a thing until someone pointed it out to me during the stream last week. I do run my car with a lot of rear brake bias. That's just how I use it for the rotation. And I think a few of these guys may well be using my setup, so it's cause and effect.
So you're influencing the arm drivers in the Porsches then?
We're always trying to help each other out, so we ask that the elite guys and the pro guys help each other out.
Oh, that was a one-way ticket. Who was the BMW? That was not a good place to be positioning your car, sir, coming round. Unfortunately, Stephen Hughes, and was that Dave Noonan as well? Looked like he may have been collected in that. That didn't look the best place to be placing your car, young man. I'm not going to put it out there a little bit. So we go with Josh Wilson. He's got Carl Cranleigh now 0.56 seconds, 5.5, and closing down into the chicane section. This is going to come very close very shortly, isn't it, guys?
Carl is absolutely flying. That gap to Josh was 3 seconds only a few laps ago. So Carl's got the bit between his teeth. Oh, they're diving into the pits now.
Are they covering each other up off at this moment as Carl sat back and said, well, you're going in, I'm going to follow you? Or is this just something that naturally happens with his fuel and that?
Well, so it looks like the top 4 have all dived in and Rob Armstrong is the only one that hasn't. So it'll be interesting to see whether the overcut works for him or not. He's managed to get the extra lap of fuel in, which should help him out with having to take less in the pit stop as well. So it'll be interesting to see where Rob ends up coming out.
So if we stay on board with Rob Armstrong as we come through the S's section, we're going to be taking the tricky left-hander. We can see all of our competitors have gone into the pits. We've got Stuart Brown up behind him as well. And obviously we jump on board with Richard Jones now, who's also not heading into the pit. So Cranleigh has jumped Josh Wilson in the pits, and he is on his way as we come out with Richard Jones. Right, so Richard's going up the... Oh, I thought I was just going to end in tears as we go into the chicane. Carl Cranleigh, Josh Wilson coming out of the pits there. Richard Jones was very determined to hold on to that position, wasn't he?
That was incredible. I'm surprised that ended how it did. That was an incredible piece of driving there from Carl. He's made the jump in the pits as well, so he's absolutely buzzing with that. He's now up to, I think it's P6, but I think with the extra couple of stops, that should put him up to P3 possibly, I think.
Yeah, I think he said, to be fair, their pit stop times were very similar. So I don't know if Carl just got a lot better there, as we see another car parked on the right-hand side as we go down the pit, as we go down the start-finish straight. Richard Jones, you can see the cars coming up, and we're going to be heading up past Carl Cranswick now, as this is what's happened previously. He literally wanted that position. I don't think he was going to give that position up very easily there, and very clean, Ian, considering where they were on the track.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was clearly that he stayed in the middle of the track and didn't come across like Edmund did earlier. So it's kind of hard to judge what's going through a driver's head at any one point. But Carl did well to avoid, and Richard Jones did well to not come across that pit line and cause a huge crash and end everyone's race.
Whoa,
annoyingly.
Robert Armstrong's coming out of pits. Sorry there, Ian, as we come out of pits, he's exited straight in front of Josh Wilson and Carl Cranswick. He jumped both of them on his pit stop. Again, that was, I think that was literally the fact that he did an amazing lap after they all dived into the pits, and he's now put himself up in 5th position. He's only 1.9 seconds back from Richard Jones. Now, Rob Armstrong looks racy here, Paul, doesn't he?
He does. He's done incredibly well there. He's gained 2 positions just in the pit stop. He done the overcut, and he's obviously taken less fuel on board as well. And he's made it work. And now he's actually putting a little bit of a gap into Cole now, who's got Josh Wilson absolutely all over the back of his car. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because I think there's a friendly rivalry between Cole and Josh as well. So it'll be interesting to see how elbows out they'll get.
Yeah, this was 2.5 seconds. Rob had quicker pit stop there than Carl and Josh as well.
He's gone wide.
He's got a contact there as it come down into 12A. Carl loses out. Not only does he stay behind Rob Armstrong, Josh Wilson goes through as well as they head down into the first corner. It'd be good to get a replay of the exit there from a Rob Armstrong point of view and see what actually happened to him. As we're going to be heading up, Carl is now at the back of the free. Josh Wilson in front, Robert Armstrong in the front of Josh as we're heading down through the S's section. Well, here we go. This is what happened with Carl as he comes out. Rob gets a very slow exit. He goes wide. Is there a little bit? Ooh!
Oh, I've got to say, I think Rob needs to be giving Carl a bit more room on the inside there. He's got a bit wide on the exit because he broke too deep into the first part of the chicane. He's gone wide. He's taken a little bit of grass on the exit, and Cole's obviously got the better drive coming out. And if we see it here, he's just gone. He's gone straight across. Yeah,
like a lurch.
Yeah, I think it's
just like.
Yeah, he's gone straight across the track now, and unfortunately for Carl Cranswick, that didn't unfortunately put him at the back of the free. So we're going on with Alex Holloway as we push now through the chicane up over the bridge, under the bridge, sorry, and there we go. We'll see what happened to Raheen here. Turn 5 curb. Is that a back marker jumping out the way? No? Oh, I thought you would have to see who that was. Unfortunately, I didn't catch the number on that one. So we go back on board with Robert Armstrong. He's still got Josh Wilson, Carl Cranswick behind. He's now 3.8 seconds back from Richard Jones. Now,
I'm starting to wonder whether Rob took. I mean, he's obviously finally calculated his fuel, but I wonder whether he'll start having to fuel save later. Just because. But what was his pit stop? It was 1.5 seconds less.
Yeah, so, he put in a 14.18. Carl and Josh did a 15 and 16.
He's got to be confident about his fuel calculations. I wonder whether he'll start having problems towards the end of the race.
Paul, what do you think with 2.8 litres a second? As we see Robert Armstrong run wide again, unfortunately. Come on, settle down, sir. You've only got 11 minutes left.
Josh is going to have to run now into the chicane. Rob's taking the super defensive line early, but I think Josh could even get this done before it's even got to the corner, to be honest, judging by the exit. Let's have a look.
Well, there you go. Well, Mr. Paul Busby said it's going to be done already. Is Rob going to give up this position for Josh Wilson? And he does. Well done, Josh. Fair play to you. Unfortunately, Rob was kind of his own enemy in that one, wasn't he, Ian? And it kind of seems to be a little bit ragged with the last 10 minutes to go.
It does seem a little bit, and you could see Josh actually gave him quite a lot of space. He did take quite a wide line coming into that entry of 10A, just to be sure that there wasn't any contact. So he did really well, despite taking a slightly worse line to do well. And Josh has just spun. Oh my goodness, no! And Rob did extraordinarily well to avoid that, and they're just going to take advantage. I don't think Josh has got any damage. I think Rob just missed it with his front end, so we'll see any second now. This is the first casualty of that turn 3 that we were talking about, and there you go. Rob did well there.
He done really well. He done really well to avoid that. Josh has just overcooked it a little bit going into the top of the hill. Like I say, as you mount the brow of the hill, the car goes light, and if you've not got enough turning to get it round the right-hander, you're in trouble.
Yeah, as we go now, we've got Carl Cranswick. This is going to be done, I think, Paul. This is going to be another casualty.
There we go.
Rob Armstrong, unfortunately, loses out. Again, he got another slow exit out of 7. He really needs to just take a breather here, Paul. And what do you say to yourself when you can see things like this happening constantly? Because he's lost another position. He's looking a bit ragged. We've got 9.5 minutes to go. What's your full process in the car?
You've just got to rein it in at this point, because I think what he's done, where he's trying so hard, he's overcooked his tyres, and it can take 2-3 laps of complete smoothness without getting in the ABS or the traction control or anything like that to kind of bring him back into life. If he carries on kind of slipping it round the hairpin like he has been doing there to go wide, he's going to really struggle in the laps to come.
Yeah, so we've got Carl Cranswick with Rob Armstrong right behind him. Rob got a lot better exit coming down into the S's section. As we're heading through the exits, we take curb on the right in that car with Carl as he goes up into the tricky turn 5. He stays off as much of the curbs as he possibly can there, which is not a bad line. And he's another one that's using Mr. Paul Busby's setup. Paul Busby's still influencing the arms, even though he's not in it. How many people you got giving this setup to, Paul?
I mean, I'd like to think anyone driving the Porsche, but I don't know how much faith people have got in me, because I've got a bit of a reputation for setting up a twitchy car, so it depends on whether people were brave enough or not, I guess.
Yeah, we did say last week, I think, that he did run it fairly light, just because you like the challenge of the car. No, whether or not that's true or not, we don't know, but we jump on board. Still got what's happened to Alex Williams in our BMW as we head up into the hill section. Unfortunately, what has actually happened to Alex?
He's just lifted
the second casualty of turn 3.
Yep.
Yeah, that camber change, balance change, losing weight.
Yeah, it's going to get harder and harder as the fuel starts burning off. They've only going to have maybe 10 litres worth of fuel left in the car at this point. So it's going to get more and more dicey as the rear ends of the car start lightening up.
Yeah, so we got Trevor Davis coming down now. We are trying to catch up to the back of Neil Smith, but we have got a 4-second gap there. So we've still got Carl, who's still got Rob chasing him. We've got Richard Jones now, who's pulled out a 9-second gap over these two. As we come down into 6, we're going to be heading down to 7 and then down 8 and 9. Down the long straight, are we going to be looking at trying to get as close as possible? Now, Rob looks like he's got a lot better exit here, Paul. As we go on with Vance Briggs now, who is coming out the back of Samuel Hooper, again down into the long straight section as we're coming down. Again, it's something that we're going to be looking at now. They've got 7 minutes left. Are we going to be getting twitchy in the car there, Paul? Are we going to be looking at thinking that I'm going to go for it? Because we can see here, Rob's all over the track trying to get past Carl. He's trying to take it too wide into the chicane section. Are we going to be down thinking, I've got to get ahead of these guys. I've got to get going. Come on, let me pass. And this is where we're going to see more mistakes.
I think it totally depends on the mentality of the driver. I think you've got some drivers who literally want to commit and want to get the best possible race result and will put their car on the line every time to do it. And then you've also got the guys who are quite happy to stick where their position is and get as many points as they can and kind of make the most out of a situation without taking too many risks. So it'll be interesting to see who wants to kind of be the more aggressive and who wants to just kind of hold on to what they've got.
Yeah, see, I think that's where I differ from everybody else there, Paul, because I would be happy sitting in 9th position now, like Samuel Hooper, thinking, I'm in a Lambo, I've got to keep it clean, I've got Vance Briggs pushing up in a BMW, who we know can take the curbs as strongly as possible. I think I would just be sitting back thinking, I've just got to keep this clean as possible, but you are going to be on that defensive line, which, as we know, slows you down in the process. So we go now. We've got John Watt, who is being caught up by Richard Jones with 0.35 seconds. As we're coming down up over the hill, we're going to be going under the bridge now. We are very close together. Is this going to be something that's going to happen over the next couple of corners? We go down the straight section now. We got Richard Jones still on the back end of John Watt as we still go down through first gear. We have got back markers, I believe that is as well, in front of us, which is going to cause the situation. We're going to be coming up over the hill. We're going to be going into the chicane as we still with these guys lying astern. Richard Jones takes a lot more curb, and as we see, he's slowed him down. We got Richard Jones right out the back of John Watt as we head down into the S's section now as we as well. Oh, watch this as well, because this is not going to go well. Full process on the back markers, Paul. Are we going to be diving, or are we going to give them weight to get them out of the way?
You've got to get it done as quickly as you can. You just can't afford to be stuck behind a back marker. You need to get your elbows out and really flash them headlights and make sure that they get out your way as quickly as you can.
Yeah, I think that's the thing now. They've got to be looking, these back markers have got to be looking in their rear views, and if you see a flashing light, you may want to move over. So Richard is eating into the time from John Watt. Now we're 0.2018171613 as we're heading down now. We're broken. He's just pulled out to the right-hand side. He's on the left as you're looking at the screen now. He goes around the outside of John Watt. Oh, that was done there, Ian. That was looked fairly clean and done. But John has got a much better exit coming out over the hill, under the bridge. Is this something that he's going to be diving up onto as we go up down the start-finish straight? Oh, that looked a little bit cleaner than I thought it was going to be, but it looks like John's still got a little bit of the bit between his teeth, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, you can see he took a little bit of extra track there because he was carrying too much speed through that final corner onto the start-finish straight, and I thought as a result of that he might be able to draft the BM, but that wasn't to be because he defended well as they're coming down the S's. He's so close behind him. I'm just going to watch this curve right now, see if anyone's lost concentration. BM just chunks all of that.
Look at that.
And
oh,
the Porsche goes wide again, and you can see the BM disappear into the distance as that exit was pretty slow.
We've had a request in chat from Stuart Pearson. Can we big up Stuart Brown? Stuart's in the lead. We haven't really seen much of Stuart this evening. He's done an excellent job keeping it nice and clean there. Now, we've got very little time remaining in this race as we're at the moment here, Paul. So we jump on board with Stuart Brown. Are we going to be thinking, I've got to take it easy, or am I still going to be pushing as if it's the beginning of the race?
At this point, Stuart Brown has got enough of a gap where he can be coasting, lifting and coasting to every corner. He's got no worries about fuel or anything like that. He just needs to bring it home at this point. He could...
Yeah, so we've got he's 8.5 seconds in front of Gary Truby at the moment. As we're going to see what's happened to Rob Windsor in his Ferrari here. We're going round. I think we're at 6 and 7. And oh, is he going to be collected? He is. Oh, number 31. Was that Trevor Davis? Unfortunately, he's having involved in that one, Paul.
So I think that's the third or the fourth incident that Trev's had today. Not a good day in the office for him. I think his number plate on the back being too fast.
There's no way he was going to miss that. He just came round and there's a car parked across.
Would you say though, Paul, he had an opportunity to miss it, or would you say, like Ian said, he literally had no chance?
I don't think he had any chance there, to be honest with you. It's one of them, your instant reaction is to just slam on the brakes, which then obviously removes your ability to steer. It's just unlucky for him there. It's one of those things, you can't really avoid it, and yeah, just have to get on with it, unfortunately.
Stuart B24 in Twitch chat. Oh, Trevor has not had a happy race. No, unfortunately, he has not. He's had a bit of an unfortunate evening, we'll call it, as we jump on board with Stuart Brown. However, this man has had an exceptional evening. Kept clean all the way, got a great start, kept clean all the way through the race. Fully deserved win here, guys, if he can keep it on the track for the last minute and a half and a lap. Ian?
Yeah, I think he's done exceptionally well all race, and I think he's just got to coast at home and try and secure his position. Yeah, Richard Jones is still behind Gary Truby, but again, we've got a minute left now. He goes down into the exit. Paul, I want to ask you a question, right? From my point of view, being that I know at times I can make some irrational decisions, would you go down the start-finish straight knowing that you've got your last lap left and look at taking the lead on the last lap, or would you do it the lap before and hope that you can try and get away?
You just got to take the opportunity as it comes up. I think you've got...
Oh, that was Gary Truby spinning off there. Sorry, Paul. I think that releases Richard Jones and John Watt, and Gary's now down in fourth. Is he going to be losing a position to Carl Cranswick? If we can jump on board with Carl and see if he managed to get through as well. But that looked in a very unfortunate situation. He's still got Gary Truby in front. So, well, lucky for Gary, unfortunate for Carl, I believe. God, what? Take us through it, Paul.
Oh, he's just taken a little bit too much curb. And then he's on the outside. He's just put his left-hand front wheel onto the grass as he's gone into the braking zone, which just turns the car into basically a snowboard and just takes you straight off into the wall. It's the pressure's got to him. I've got to say it. The pressure has got to him. He had Mr. Jones right on his back bumper with a lap or so to go, and unfortunately, he's not been able to hold it off, and he's kind of suffered the consequences of it now.
Yeah, so we're coming down into the last lap. We've got Rob York, who's right behind Rob Windsor as we come down the start-finish straight. We're going to be going down into... oh, no, we're a little bit further on than I'm expecting, I think, on this one. Hold on. Well, yeah, we are coming up turn one. As we head up turn one, we're Rob York behind Rob Windsor as we're going to come into the chicane section. Now, battle of the Ferraris here, guys. Who's going to... where do you think... Do you think we're going to happen 8 and 9 here, Paul? Or do you think... Rob's going to be waiting for that straight and try and get him on the straight?
I think he's got to try and get it done on the straight. He needs to make sure he gets the perfect exit out of turn 7 and just dick on that rear wing and hope he can send it down onto the inside into the chicane.
Yeah, he's definitely... Stuart Brown now comes around the last corner. Take a bow, young man. Absolutely excellent evening for you. Stuart Brown is our winner. As we got the first of the arms race here at Road Atlanta, and then we got Richard Jones, but we're going to go back on board here with Rob Armstrong, Carl Cranswick, Gary Truby. They're all very close together.
Oh, he's sending it.
He's going to go through. Is he going to go through on the last lap? Is Carl going to let him through as we come down the start finish straight?
Oh, God. That was incredible. What a race those two have had. Cole and Rob, take a bow. Take an absolute bow. That was fantastic driving. I can't believe that didn't end in tears going through the last corner.
I definitely thought there would have been a bit more leaning on from Carl as he come round that corner on Rob. But Rob Windsor has crossed the line, still in front of Robert York. Well done there, sirs. Wow. That was absolutely epic. Damien in 540 in Twitch chat, nearly tears. Yes, it was. And loss, mega. That's all we can say about that from Rob Armstrong and Carl Cranswick. Well done, boys. Absolutely amazing. Stuart Pearson, great coverage in the YouTube chat. Much appreciated from you. Zago, who's back in chat after being in for the pros and elites. Bless him. There's no, we had no Fords this week, Zago, unfortunately. Sorry for that, young sir. Great drive from Stuart Brown. Big drive. Nice work. Okay, so we're looking at now. We've got to the end of the race. My excitement has settled down a bit. Let's run through the race results. So we got in first place, we got Stuart Brown, who is currently obviously in the first race, leading the championship on 40 points. Richard Jones in second, John Watt in third, Gary Truby in fourth, Carl Cranswick, Rob Armstrong. Absolutely incredible driving in that last corner. To keep it as clean as you did is absolutely amazing. Rob Windsor in 7th, Rob York in 8th, Vance Briggs in 9th, Samuel Hooper in 10th. We got Raheen in 11th, Nick Alexander in 12th, Joe Turner in 13th, Steve Hughes in 14th, Alex Holloway in 15th, Stuart Williams 16th, Dave Noonan in 17th, Matty Wild in 18th. So... Richard Jones is going to be he'll be on 36 points, guys, because obviously he got pole position as well. One sentence from you both. How can we sum up that? Paul, off you go first.
Absolutely incredible. Just got to give a big shout out to Carl Cranswick. I think he's got to take my driver of the day. Just got to throw that out there. Yeah, it's great to be back in the commentary team. Thank you both for having me. Incredible race. More to come for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we're going to see you next week in the Hungaro ring. Young sir,
Yep.
Get out and do some testing, will you?
I'll try my best.
Come on. Ian, one sentence. How can you sum up this?
Frantic and exciting.
So we've got Zago who's put in Twitch chat, bless you for saying young sir. As you can hear, Zago, pretty much everybody is, if they 9 out of 10 people are younger than me, Zago, so everybody's a young sir, all right? Let's go through that. So, guys, we are now, that is the end of the AMs, and thank you so much from Ian and Paul for joining us. There you go, after a night of epic racing here on Total Sim Sport, Twitch and YouTube channel. We will see you next week with some epic racing. We have the F3s on Tuesday, the 28th of September, live from Snetterton Circuit. brought to you by Chris Rowland and Nick Allen. They will be live at 9 p.m. BST on the Total Sim Sport YouTube and Twitch channel. Then we have the European Sprint Series on Thursday, the 28th of September, with myself and Chris Rowland, and we're live at 10:05 p.m. BST, and that will be just on the Total Sim Sport YouTube channel, guys, okay? Where we will bring you LMP1s, LMP2s, and GTEs, and after last Thursday's race at Spa, you do not want to miss that. Then on Sunday, the 3rd of October, as we've heard from Mr. Busby, he's going to go out now and knock up 100 laps tomorrow of the Hungaro ring, bless him, because he hasn't done any practice. It's the turn of the GT3 Pros and Elites, brought to you from the Hungaro ring. We'll be live at 7:45 on Total Sim YouTube and Twitch channel. Well, there you go, guys. After he's going to be an absolutely rare pick racing ahead of us. And all that's left to say is I'm James Parfitt. And from Ian, Paul, and producer Sean, have a safe week and good night.